Hello everyone, welcome back to the e-learning space of MGM Higher Secondary School, Bokaro. This is the first video for Class 8 English Grammar Lesson number 12. Lesson number 12 in your English grammar book, The Grammar Right, is titled Reported Speech. In this first video, we are going to learn what is reported speech, what are the different ways a speech can be reported, and what are the general rules for transforming one kind of speech to another kind. Let us begin. Lesson number 12, reported speech. Here is a small activity exercise for you. Exercise A. A table is given here and two different sets of sentences are there. You have to tell the difference between these sentences. Look at the first column. I study French, she said. The entire thing is in quotes with commas. Look at the second column. She said that she studied French. Both the sentences convey the same meaning. However, the way they are written, the speaker, the content is different. So what are the basic differences that we can see right here? It is the use of conjunction in the second one, the use of quotations and comma and punctuations in the first one. And the same differences continue in all the sentences. I went for a walk, said Mr. Henry. Mr. Henry said that he had gone for a walk. Now, these are two different ways of reporting the words of a speaker. What is reported speech? Hence, reported speech means something that you have heard from a speaker and you are bringing those words back to someone, conveying it, reporting it back. Now, once you report it to someone, there are two ways in which you can report it. You can either quote the speaker directly, the words and the dialogues of the speaker, you can quote them with quotation marks directly, or you can simply use it without the quotation mark, means without quoting the speaker. So of course, when we are not quoting the speaker, we will not use the quotation marks. So based on this information, reported speech can be reported in two ways, that is direct and indirect. Direct speech uses quotation marks because it is going to contain the exact direct or exact quotations or dialogues of the speaker, while indirect speech, it is not the exact words of the speaker, hence we will not be using quotation marks for it. Now children, direct speech and indirect speech both contains three components. These sentences have three components. Look at the examples given here. Sam said, I will be late for the class. Sam said. The subject along with the verb here is the reporting clause. I will be late for the class. What is being reported? What is being reported by, or what was said by the subject here is the reported clause. And the reporting verb will of course be in the reporting clause. This is when there is a direct sentence or a direct speech. In the indirect speech, let us convert the same sentence into indirect speech. I will tell you the rules of the transformation in the same video in the next slide. But first see the example. Sam said that he would be late for the class. Sam said, again, it is the reporting clause. That he would be late. That he would be late. So Sam said that is the reporting clause. He would be late. What he said, he would be late for the class, is the reported clause. And again said, the verb here is the reporting verb. Whenever we are transforming direct speech into indirect speech, there's some rules that you have to keep in mind. The tense will change. The tense of the direct speech will not be the same if it is being transformed into an indirect speech. Now the thing is for you to remember which tense will take the shape or transform into which kind of tense or which type of tense. See the first one. If the direct speech is using simple present tense, then in the indirect speech, the same sentence will turn into a simple past tense. For example, I am late becomes I was late, because now the time has passed and I'm reporting it to you. It's no longer in the present tense. It has become the past tense. Now, if a sentence is in present continuous tense, I am working. If you're reporting it in indirect speech, it becomes I was working. Present perfect tense, I have rested, turns into past perfect tense, I had rested. Simple past tense, I drank tea, becomes past perfect tense, I had drunk tea. Past continuous tense, I was reading, becomes past perfect continuous tense. So the past perfect of was reading is had been reading. So the sentence in the indirect speech will now be I had been reading. Once again, you must remember that the past perfect tense becomes past perfect tense. It will not change. See here, I had read the mill on the floors will remain I had read the mill on the floors. So you are going to ask me, if nothing is changing, how do we know it is direct or indirect? The quotation marks, and also I will tell you how the number, the person, the case, are they changing in the next slide. Right now we are talking about the change in tenses. I will go. If the modal will is used in a direct speech, it becomes would. Same for shall. Shall also used in a direct speech becomes would. But if shall is used in a question, then it will change into should. For example, shall I send you the ticket will become should I send you the ticket? I will go becomes I would go. Take a note of the green box here, children. Whenever we are reporting a universal truth or a habitual action in direct speech, we can either use present tense or the past tense to report it. For example, Saturn has rings, said the teacher. This can be reported as the teacher said that Saturn has rings without changing it, or we can say the teacher said that Saturn had rings. Both would be correct. This is only applicable when we are reporting a universal truth or a habitual action. Now, in indirect speech, the tense will not change if the main verb or reporting verb is in the present tense. See the main verb in this sentence, Ravi says. Says is the main verb and it is in the present tense. So, in the indirect speech, it also will remain as says. Simple present tense. Ravi says that he is happy. The main verb does not change. Children, in the beginning of the lesson itself, we saw activity A or exercise A, in which two sets of sentences were given to you. The columns were there and you had to remark what are the changes that are happening. So the quotation marks were removed, the pronoun was changing, the tense was changing, and we were also using a conjunction. Now here, indirect speech is given to you and you have to change it into direct speech. Grandfather is going to the market, said grandmother. It's given in direct speech. We have to change it into indirect speech. So the sentence would now become, grandmother said that grandfather was going to the market. We have removed the quotation. We have introduced a conjunction and is going. Present continuous changes into past continuous. Peter will go to the post office, said grandfather. Grandfather said that Peter would go to the post office. So will becomes would, quotation mark is removed and another conjunction is introduced. Rest of these three sentences you're going to do on your own. So far, we have understood how the tense is changing. Now, let us understand how the pronouns will change in reported speech if we are transforming from direct to indirect. The first thing to be kept in mind, children, come to page 96 in your textbook and look at the table given. If there is a first person pronoun, then you have to look at the subject of the reporting verb. He said, I am late. So the subject of the reporting verb here is he. So we are going to change I, the first person pronoun, according to the subject he. So he said that he was late. I is actually he over here in the sentence. The subject is he. So the first person pronoun I changes into he when we are reporting it in the indirect sentence. Look at the second one for more clarity. I said I am late. So once again, I here in the reporting verb is a first person pronoun. So first we will look at the subject. Subject here again is I. I said. So we are going in the indirect speech to change the pronoun accordingly. I said that I was late. They said we are late. So we here again is first person pronoun in plural. The subject here is they. So our sentence will be they said that they were late. Similarly, if in a sentence it is second person pronoun in direct speech, then we are now going to look at the object of the reporting verb and accordingly change the sentence. He said to me. What is the object here? Me. Me is the object of the sentence here. You are late. You is second person. So when we change it, he told me that I was late because me was the subject. So the pronoun that will be used for me here is I. He told me that I was late. She said to him, you are late. What is the object here? Him. She told him that he was late. So the pronoun that will transform for the object him is he. Third person pronoun, he said she is late. So in the reporting clause, she is the third person pronoun. So over here, there is no need to change anything. We will simply report it as he said that she was late. So let us just recall everything once again. The tense will change according to the discussed slide previously. But how the pronoun is changing? If there is first person pronoun in the direct speech, look at the subject and change the pronoun accordingly. If there is second person pronoun in the direct speech, look at the object and then change the pronoun accordingly. If there is third person pronoun in the direct speech, there won't be any changes. We will simply change the tense and report it in indirect speech. Also, children, it is important to remember that whenever we are changing a direct speech into indirect speech, we see that the tense is changing, the punctuation marks are changing, the pronouns are changing, but the number should not change. Means if it's singular, it should remain singular. If it is plural, it should remain plural. The case, the nominative, objective, possessive case, even that does not change. Now, one important thing to remember is that some models do not change in indirect speech. Previously, we saw that will and shall changes into would and shall in a question changes into should. But there are some models like could, would, should, might, ought to, which never change. Harry said, I couldn't meet my friend Ravi. In indirect speech, it will become Harry said that he couldn't meet his friend Ravi. So the model code is not changing into anything when we are changing it into indirect speech. Come to the reporting verbs. While reporting someone's words, the reporting word should express the feeling of the speaker. So every time you need not say Harry said, Sheila said when we are changing into indirect speech. There are various other reporting verbs that can be used like told, asked, advised, added. Basically, when we are changing a direct speech into indirect speech, the feeling of the speaker has to be assessed by us, and then it has to be transformed by using the appropriate reporting verb. Okay? For example, the teacher said, tomorrow we will go to the museum. So instead of saying in the indirect speech, the teacher told, as the teacher is announcing something to the whole group of class or students, we can say the teacher announced that they would go to the museum the following day. Mother said you can take the car. So instead of, every time saying mother said, mother told, we can simply, assess the feeling of the speaker. Mother said you can take the car. So here the feeling of suggestion is there. So we can say mother suggested that I could take the car. Now children, we have learnt about changing the tense, the pronoun, the modal. Now, is the expression of time and place also changing? Yes, because we are reporting it to somebody in indirect speech, the expression of time and place will definitely change. For example, this evening will become that evening. Today becomes that day. It's given in your textbook in a proper table. Do learn it. Yesterday becomes the previous day. These days becomes those days. Now becomes then. A week ago becomes a week before. Last weekend becomes previous weekend. Next week becomes the following week, and tomorrow becomes the next day or the following day. Look at the example here. If you report something someone said in a different place from where you heard it, you must change the place here to there. For example, how long have you worked here? This is the direct speech. So if I'm reporting it to someone, I would say, she asked me how long I had worked there, because my time and place has now changed. Children, this brings us to the end of our first video on reported speech. We have learned what is reported speech, how it can be reported in different ways, and while transforming a certain statement into direct or indirect, what are the basic transformations that are necessary according to the grammatical rules. Any confusion on this lesson, we are going to discuss it further in our second video as well as in our online classes. Till then, children, thank you and take care.